I love a Capri Sun. Hi everyone, my name's Sharon, welcome back to my channel. Today I am finally here to bring you a reading wrap up. So I have read 12 books so far this year, which is pretty good for me, to be quite honest. I set my Goodreads goal as one book because I've not got the best track record with reading at the moment, which is why I thought it would be better doing this kind of wrap up as opposed to a monthly wrap up, because to be honest there are some months where I don't even finish one book, so this just works out better for everybody involved. I'm just going to jump straight in with the books that I read because otherwise this video will be like, I don't know, hours long and nobody wants that. The first book that I read this year was This Mortal Coil by Emily Savada. This Mortal Coil is set in a futuristic world where everybody is basically implanted with a chip that allows them to change their DNA so they can change the way they look, they can change their eye colour, their hair, their body weight, anything like that. And main character Kat is a hacker. Unfortunately, stuff goes terribly wrong and a plague breaks out in the world, and Kat is forced to survive this plague on her own for essentially 2 years, and it gets to a point where she is approached by some dude who tells her that she has to come back with him because her and her father are the only people that can probably stop this plague from getting worse and can essentially save the human race. I found the premise of this book really interesting and I was interested within the first few pages. I thought it was going to go really well. There was so much hype surrounding it. Unfortunately for me, it did not live up to the expectations that I had of it. I have actually already filmed a in-depth review on this book if you want to go watch that. It is spoiler free, so no worries there. But essentially I ended up only giving it 1.5 stars. I really didn't enjoy it. I thought that the characters are really two-dimensional. I thought that the plot was really weak. Stuff coincidentally kept happening that needed to happen. I felt like Kat, the main character, was good at everything when she needed to be. She didn't have to work through anything or figure anything out. She was quite Mary Sue-like for me, and the romance was also a bit shit. So I wasn't here for it. And yeah, it was a disappointing start to the year, to be quite honest, with books that I was reading. The second book that I read this year was actually much better, and that was The Disappearances by Emily Bain Murphy. I really enjoyed this book. It's very mysterious and beautifully written. It's basically about our main character Ayla, and when her mother dies, her and her younger brother are sent off to live in the village where her mother was raised, and her mother's got a lot of mystery surrounding her. They don't really know much about her other than what their mother has allowed them to know. And when they arrive in Stirling, they find that most of the people there don't particularly like them, and they blame their mother for disappearances that happen in the town. So essentially every 7 years something goes missing. The ability to dream, the ability to taste, everything like that, and it's really interesting. There are lots of Shakespearean references throughout, so if you like that kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend this. If you're into magical realism as well, this is the perfect kind of book for you. It kind of reminded me of The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender. That's how I felt whilst I was reading it. I felt like I was in like a giant bubble, and once I finished it I was like, what's going on? Where am I? What world am I in? It was that kind of book. Again, I do have a review filmed on this. It's not on my channel, it is on the Waterstones vlog channel. I will link that down below if you fancy watching it and seeing my feelings on it in a little bit more depth. But essentially in the end I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it and I really recommend it if you're looking for something that's a little bit steeped in magical realism and you've got no idea what's going on. It's really good. The next book that I finished this year was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I don't even feel like I need to explain this one because I feel like everybody in the whole entire world knows what this book is about, and if you don't, then well, basically it's about Faye. There's so much hype surrounding this book and I did enjoy it. I read it for February, which is a readathon that Sarah Jane created. So yeah, it was good. I gave it 4 stars. I don't think I quite enjoyed it as much as everybody else did, but I still enjoyed it. It was still a good read. It's definitely better in the second half of the book than it is in the first half, and I think the way it ended, the second book's probably going to be a little bit more interesting. But yeah, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the relationships that were formed, and I am looking forward to the next book that I will definitely be picking the next one up. Alright, the next 3 books that I read blew my bloody mind. Honestly, I was not expecting to love these books as much as I did. The next 3 books that I read were The Falconer, The Vanishing Throne and The Fallen Kingdom, all by Elizabeth May. If you have watched my DNF-ing video, you will know that The Falconer is on the list of books I have DNF. I picked it up twice before this and I couldn't get through it. I wasn't in the right mood to read it. And then Sarah Jane and Sam buddy read it and they both really enjoyed it. So I thought, okay, I'll give it another go. Oh my god. If ever there was a book to convince you that if you're not feeling a book you need to put it down, this is the one. Because clearly I wasn't in the right frame of mind to read them before, and then I read them this one, and then I immediately bought the second one, immediately bought the third one, and just like inhaled them. I mean inhaled. I adored them. So if you don't know what The Falconer is about, it's basically set in Scotland and it follows our main character Alina, however you want to pronounce it. She's a lovely young aristocratic lady, very well-to-do, you know, back in that time it was set, and she's rich and she should have charm and beauty and wealth and blah blah blah, except Alina, she doesn't quite live up to her role, because unfortunately one day she witnesses her mother being murdered by a fae and vows from that point on to hunt down the fae that killed her mother. So she essentially ends up becoming a fae hunter. I cannot tell you how much I loved these books. Trust me, if you love Sarah J Maas's writing, these are even better. In my opinion, these are so underhyped. They're so much better than Sarah J Maas's books. Just, if you want a good fae book that's going to grip you, this series, this trilogy is the one for you. It gets better and better with each book. In fact, I think I was talking to Sarah Jane and Suze and I was saying on Voxer that it's been a really long time since I've cried at a book, and then I read the third one and then I just, oh my god, they just, I can't, I'm getting too excited. I am getting too excited. Essentially, 5-star series for me. Absolutely adored it. I will read anything Elizabeth May puts out now. I just think she's incredible. The characters, the relationships that they form are brilliant. The plot is just, there are so many twists and turns. There's the bloody cliffhangers had me like on the edge of my seat. It is just brilliant, and trust me when I say that they get better with each book, and you need to read these if you like your fae and you want angst and you want drama and you want a strong female character that is so, there's so much depth to her and so much happens to her and she changed so much throughout the 3 books that it's just wonderful, and honestly I cannot recommend these enough. The next book that I read this year was a children's book, and unfortunately I don't have a copy myself, but it is The House with Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson. I absolutely adored this book. If you've watched my reading vlog, I am reading it in that, and you'll see again I just bloody loved it. It's based on Baba Yaga and Russian fairy tales and stuff like that, and it is just really interesting. It is very emotional at points, and it's the kind of children's book that makes you think, and again, just felt like I was in a bubble whilst reading it, just trapped in my own little bubble. Really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I thought it was a brilliant children's book, but also the kind of children's book that can be read by anybody. Like, I feel like it will end up becoming a classic. It's that good, and you know, my favourite character is the house, so there is that. The next 5 books that I read are all part of the same series, so I can't really go into much detail without spoiling you on them, but they are Iced, Burned, Feverborn, Fever Song, and High Voltage, all by Karen Marie Morning. Let me tell you that I have just been inhaling each and every one of these books. It took me a very long time to get into this series. I read Dark Fever ages and ages ago because obviously Sarah Jane told me to. And I read it the first time and I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was anything to shout home about. And then I read it again when I was a little bit older and oh my god. This series just... I'm gonna link Sarah Jane's review of the series in the description down below because she does it way more justice than I ever could. But this series is essentially set on fae, dark fae, everything. There's so much, like, you can't even describe it in one sentence. You have to do like a genuine full review on it. I adore it. There are characters that are introduced later on that have become my absolute favourites. You have no idea how much I ship a certain pair of characters. No idea. And I just have loved reading them so much. It's been a bloody emotional roller coaster. I'm finally done with the series. High Voltage absolutely ruined me. I will just put that out there. Ruined me. They've all been pretty much 4 to 5 stars, nothing below 4 stars for me. I think my favourites though were probably Fever Song and High Voltage, because so much happens in them and they're just really great books. They kind of tie up the series really well, even though the series might not even be over yet. But I think Karen Marie Morning's writing is so underhyped. A lot of people focus on the sex that happens in the book and just like the, oh my god, incredibly good looking, woo, these men are hot characters, and there's so much more than that. They are, as Sarah Jane puts it, they essentially boil down to being about survival and about becoming who you need to be to survive and making decisions that you need to make based on your survival instinct, and they're just so good. The characters in it are brilliant, and again, relationships that they form just will stick with you for a lifetime, trust me. I can't recommend this series enough. If you want something that is gonna like pick you up out of a slump and drop you straight in another one, then this is the series, because I haven't sort of read it like one book, gone off, read another few different books in a different series and then come back to it slowly. I have gone from Dark Fever all the way until Shadow Fever. I inhaled them, binged read them, then I had a bit of a break, and then I read obviously from Iced until High Voltage, like non-stop, consistent non-stop, and I read High Voltage in a day. I finished Fever Song, picked up High Voltage, and I finished it within the day. Sarah Jane and Suze were incredibly shocked that I had read a book in a day, so was I. I just loved it that much. It was just so gripping, and oh, I can't wait for more books, I just can't. But yeah, those are all the books that I have read so far this year. I'm having a pretty good reading month. Like, I feel like I'm finally getting back into the flow of reading again. I dropped my books. As I was saying, I feel like I'm finally getting back into the flow of reading again. It's becoming more enjoyable for me, which is amazing. I have missed loving reading so much. And with Tome Top happening right now, I'm powering through more books, and it's just brilliant. I'm loving it. So hopefully I'll continue reading and this kind of reading pattern carries on, and I can do another reading wrap up and I'm like, woo, books 12 to 500. Which is never going to happen, but it would be nice. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the books that I have read this year and what you thought of them. As always, my opinions kind of are my own opinions. If you've read a book that I've read and I loved it and you didn't like it, that is cool. If I didn't like a book that you loved, nothing personal, just my personal opinion. I can be quite a picky reader at times, but obviously this month I have been picky enough to pick the right books that I would enjoy, apart from this month Coil. But yeah, that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!